Hey guys, welcome back. So today, in honor of Nancy Cartwright's birthday, we're going to be doing another Simpsons Tidbits video. So in today's Simpsons Tidbits, I want to start off with something that I was talking about in the last Simpsons Tidbits, which was Herb Simpson. Now, what I said last time about Herb was that he shouldn't really hold it against Homer that he ruined his company, or ruined his life, I should say. And I concluded that it wasn't Homer's fault that Herb put him in charge of the company. You know, that was totally his fault for putting somebody who he has no idea how experienced he is, for putting somebody like that in charge. That's totally his fault, right? Well, I rewatched Brother, Can You Spare 2 Dimes? Now that is the sequel episode to Brother, Where Art Thou? Where he first meets his brother and he puts him in charge. So this is after Herb has gone broke again, you know? And so I was just kind of looking at how awfully he treats Homer when he sees him again. You know, he keeps, like, punching him in the face. And it's like, geez, you know, like, he's a terrible guy, you know? Like Herb Simpson is a terrible guy, I think. And here's another thing that supports that. You never see him in the show again. Like, he's not even a cameo. Like, that's literally the last appearance of Herb Simpson, is in Brother, Can You Spare 2 Dimes? His second appearance. And it's kind of weird because it's like, he's a family member character, you know? Like, and I guess you could say, like, well, you don't see Marge's mom very much, which is true. You know, you see her hardly at all. But you literally never see him again. I don't know, it's kind of weird, because he left on a good note, you know, so it's just pretty strange to me that they don't even, like, even Mr. Bergstrom, you know, Lisa's substitute, actually has a cameo later on in the show, like, way later, but, like, and he's a less important character than Homer's brother, you know, so I think it's just kind of weird that they just totally took him out of the show completely. So the next Simpsons tidbit that's on the chopping block actually has to do with 2 episodes, Simpson and Delilah, a Season 2 episode, and Homer's Phobia, a Season 8 episode. So in the end of Simpson and Delilah, I'm sure you guys remember that Homer says, "I'm a fool," and then Carl, his assistant guy, says, "My mother told me never to kiss a fool." Some sort of conversation took place like that, and then he kissed Homer, right? And Homer went, "Carl," you know, like, he didn't have, like, an adverse reaction to it, you know what I mean? Like how somebody who was homophobic would if they got kissed by another guy. You know, so I'm sure you can see where this is going. So it doesn't really make sense to all of a sudden have Homer be homophobic. And honestly, even if Homer did get upset about that guy just kissing him, you know, it wouldn't be, like, totally unreasonable, you know, because imagine if a guy just kissed the girl, you know, that you can't do that. So it's an invasion of his space, if anything. So the fact that he didn't have an adverse reaction to that, and then they all of a sudden make him super homophobic, it's very bizarre, you know, like, it doesn't, those two things would not happen simultaneously. And the other problem is that it's a Season 2 episode that the non-adverse reaction happens in, and then Season 8 is when he starts having a problem. So it's not like they could say, oh, well, he just grew out of it. Well, looks like he grew into it and then grew out of it. I don't know. That's why it doesn't really make sense. And here's the thing. I think Homer's Phobia is a really good episode, and it does show how a lot of people have an adverse reaction to gay people and how that's not okay, and that they're normal people as well. It's a great episode, and it has a great message. But I'm just pointing out that in terms of previous Simpsons content and character structure, it doesn't really make sense. And the thing is, too, is that Homer didn't used to be as much of a jerk. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's just that the reason why he is now more homophobic is that he's just more of a jerk now, you know? I mean, it's true. There's a name for it. Jerk-ass Homer, you know? So that's the thing. Maybe it's that he's just becoming an asshole, and that's why he's now a super huge homophobe in Season 8 versus Season 2. But I think that was kind of an interesting thing to bring up as a Simpsons tidbit. There's also sort of a Simpsons theory that I wanted to bring up in this Simpsons Tidbits episode. It's not really a theory, though, because I don't necessarily believe that this is the case. It's just something sort of interesting to point out, I guess. So in Season 20, Episode 11, How the Test Was Won, Homer flashes through like, all of his near-death experiences, right? And at the end of this montage, basically, of near-death experiences, he says, "What a week." And it's like, well, the Simpsons never age, and if all of that took place over a week, then that would make sense, you know? I sort of calculated out the amount of time that would have taken place between the first episode and season 20, episode 11 to be specific. And there was kind of a margin of error, but within that margin of error, it was pretty close to the amount of time that exists in a week. You know, so I mean, that was also something that was, oh, okay, like it actually is reasonably close to the amount of time of a week. If you add up all the minutes in every episode between season 1 and season 20, episode 11, right? And the only problem with this theory, and the only reason why I don't really want to call it straight up a theory, is because the Simpsons themselves, in the show, will reference weeks going by. This was a couple weeks ago. Or even in the show itself, they will flash forward to like 2 weeks later. Like when Bart orders his spy camera in season 1, you know, he orders it and then it flashes forward to like 2 weeks later. Maybe even I forget what the exact amount of time was, but it was a ridiculous amount of time, I remember. I was like, geez, that amount of time to ship something? That sucks, you know? Because they didn't have the internet. Or they didn't have a very good version of the internet. But yeah, because we have actually established that weeks actually go by in Springfield, in the world of The Simpsons, that's why I don't believe in this thing as a theory. It's just more of something that's kind of interesting. If anything, it's just an interesting coincidence that all the time happens to add up to the amount of time at that time in season 20, episode 11. And that it would explain why they never age, you know, because it's only been a week. You don't look different, and you're not another year older, you know, so you're still the same age, generally speaking, if we're talking in years specifically. But that would be kind of a fun theory, you know, if they didn't ever, like, mention weeks going by, or if they never showed weeks actually passing in the show. That would be pretty hard to do. I mean, yeah, really hard to do. But it would be cool, you know, for sure. That would be awesome. So I wanted to conclude this Simpsons Tidbits video with a new segment of these Simpsons Tidbit videos that I've come up with recently. And that is Proto Character of the Day. Now, what does that mean, right? Well, we take a proto character in The Simpsons, basically a season 1 or sometimes even season 2 character that hasn't been established yet. And they have a lot of either different character traits. Sometimes their voice is totally different. Or sometimes they're even drawn a little bit differently. So, for our first proto-character of the day, we're going to be talking about Proto-Comic Book Guy. So first we'll examine the visual differences between Proto and regular comic book guy. So first, as you can see, Proto-Comic Book Guy has this jet black hair, compared to the regular comic book guy's brown hair, although as you can see, he does still have the ponytail, and he is balding. I honor the ding. The next visual difference would be that his beard line actually has a different color on the inside that would represent the stubble. And that would be similar to how Homer's stubble looks, like it's a brownish color on the inside of the stubble line. Versus regular comic book guy who just has yellow on the inside of the stubble line, making it look more like a very light stubble. Everything else is pretty much the same. Obviously, he's going to be wearing different colored clothes, but that's pretty much how every proto character is going to be, or most of them at least. The only other thing would be a vocal difference, and he sounds really similar. I can't say for sure, I guess, if it's Hank Azaria who's voicing him, because I'm not sure if he's even in the credits, or I wouldn't be able to identify him in the credits because he's not comic book guy yet. But I'm pretty sure it would be Hank Azaria voicing him because it sounds very similar to comic book guy's regular voice. And we'll put a voice sample in right here.
Check it out. Spinal Tap kicking Muammar Gaddafi in the butt. The timeless classic, now 2 for $1.
So overall, this proto-character is actually very similar to their official first appearance in the show, besides the discoloration in his body and clothing. Everything else is pretty much the same. And obviously, as you can see here, he's even still peddling merchandise in his proto-appearance, although it is rock merchandise rather than comic book merchandise, which I would say is significantly different, although there is an overlap in fandom for sure.